You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
We've all been there. You realize your business needs to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Well, it's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post noticed. Indeed's sponsored jobs helps you stand out and hire fast. Your post jumps to the top of search results so the right candidates see it first. And it works. Sponsored jobs on Indeed get 45% more applications than non-sponsored ones. One of the things I love about Indeed is how fast it makes hiring. And yes, we do actually use Indeed for hiring here at N2K CyberWire. Many of my colleagues here came to us through Indeed. Plus, with sponsored jobs, there are no subscriptions, no long-term contracts. You only pay for results. How fast is Indeed? Oh, in the minute or so that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners to this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/CyberWire. Just go to Indeed.com/CyberWire right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/CyberWire. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Cyber Command ordered to halt offensive operations against Russia during Ukraine negotiations. Ransomware actors exploit Paragon Partition Manager vulnerability. Amnesty International publishes analysis of Cellebrite exploit chain. California orders data broker to shut down for violating the Delete Act. On our afternoon Cyber Tea segment with host Ann Johnson of Microsoft Security, Ann speaks with Igor Tsyganskiy, Microsoft's Global Chief Information Security Officer, about the power of partnership in cyber defense. Today is Monday, March 3rd, 2025. I'm Maria Varmazes, host of the T-Minus Space Daily, in for Dave Bittner. And this is your CyberWire Intel Briefing. Thanks for joining us on this first Monday in March. On to today's stories. The Record reports that U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has ordered Cyber Command to halt offensive cyber operations against Russia. The full scope of the directive is unclear, but it doesn't include the NSA or its signals intelligence operations targeting Russia. The Washington Post cites a current U.S. official familiar with the order as saying that the pause is meant to last only as long as negotiations over the war in Ukraine continue. The Post says that the operations being halted could include exposing or disabling malware found in Russian networks before it can be used against the United States, blocking Russian hackers from servers that they may be preparing to use for their own offensive operations, or disrupting a site promoting anti-U.S. propaganda. The New York Times observes that former officials said it was common for civilian leaders to order pauses in military operations during sensitive diplomatic negotiations to avoid derailing them. Still, for President Trump and Mr. Hegseth, the retreat from offensive cyber operations against Russian targets represents a huge gamble. It essentially counts on Mr. Putin to reciprocate by letting up on what many call the shadow war underway against the United States and its traditional allies in Europe. The Pentagon, on its part, declined to comment on the report. A senior defense official told The Record, due to operational security concerns, we do not comment nor discuss cyber intelligence plans or operations. There is no greater priority to Secretary Hegseth than the safety of the warfighter in all operations, to include the cyber domain. Researchers at Microsoft discovered 5 vulnerabilities affecting a driver used by Paragon Partition Manager, one of which is being exploited by ransomware actors, reports Bleeping Computer. Microsoft has observed ransomware attackers using the flaw to achieve system-level privilege escalation before executing additional malware. An advisory from the CERT Coordination Center explains an attacker with local access to a device can exploit these vulnerabilities to escalate privileges or cause a denial of service scenario on the victim's machines. Additionally, as the attack involves a Microsoft signed driver, an attacker can leverage a bring your own vulnerable driver technique to exploit systems even if Paragon Partition Manager is not installed. Paragon Software has issued patches for the flaws, and users of Partition Manager should upgrade to the latest version. And now a follow-up story to something that we covered last week. Amnesty International has published a follow-up to its December 2024 report on the Serbian government's alleged misuse of Cellebrite's cell phone data extraction tool. Amnesty's latest report, published on Friday, outlines a new case of misuse of a Cellebrite product to break into the phone of a youth activist in Serbia. The report shares technical details on a sophisticated zero-day exploit chain targeting Android USB drivers developed by Cellebrite. Amnesty explains that the exploit, which targeted Linux kernel USB drivers, enabled Cellebrite customers with physical access to a locked Android device to bypass an Android phone's lock screen and gain privileged access on the device. As the exploit targets core Linux kernel USB drivers, the impact is not limited to a particular device or vendor and could affect a very wide range of devices. The same vulnerabilities could also expose Linux computers and Linux-powered embedded devices to physical attacks, although there is no evidence that this exploit chain has been designed to target non-Android Linux devices. Last week, Cellebrite announced that it would suspend its services in Serbia, citing Amnesty's December report. The state of California's Privacy Protection Agency, or CPPA, last Thursday ordered a data broker to cease operations for 3 years for failing to register with the state, according to a report from The Record. The California Delete Act, which took effect in January 2024, requires data brokers to register with the CPPA in order to provide a mechanism through which consumers can request to have their data deleted. The broker in this case, called Background Alert, has agreed to the settlement terms. The Record notes that such a ruling against a data broker is unprecedented. Researchers at Truffle Security found just under 12,000 valid API keys and passwords in the Common Crawl database, which is an enormous open-source repository of web data used for training AI models. The secrets included an AWS root key, live Slack webhooks, and nearly 1,500 unique MailChimp API keys. The researchers stressed that Common Crawl isn't to blame. The keys were publicly exposed because web developers hard-coded them into front-end HTML and JavaScript, and the web pages were then archived by Common Crawl. Poland's Minister for Digitalization said yesterday that the Polish Space Agency's IT infrastructure sustained an unauthorized intrusion, and the agency has disconnected its network from the internet while it investigates the incident. We should note that the nature of the attack is unclear. The Register cites a source inside the agency as saying that the incident was related to an internal email compromise, and staff have been told to rely on phones instead. Stay tuned for further developments here and on our T-Minus Space Daily podcast. Coming up after our break, Ann Johnson from Microsoft Security joins us for her monthly Afternoon Cyber Tea segment. And we click end call with an old friend.
Cyber threats are more sophisticated than ever. Passwords, they're outdated and can be cracked in a minute. Cyber criminals are intercepting SMS codes and bypassing authentication apps. While businesses invest in network security, they often overlook the front door, the login. Yubico believes the future is passwordless. YubiKeys offer unparalleled protection against phishing for individuals, SMBs, and enterprises. They deliver a fast, frictionless experience that users love. Yubico is offering N2K followers a limited buy one, get one offer. Visit yubico.com/N2K to unlock this deal. That's YUBICO. Say no to modern cyber threats. Upgrade your security today. Cyber threats are evolving every second, and staying ahead is more than just a challenge, it's a necessity. That's why we're thrilled to partner with ThreatLocker, the cybersecurity solution trusted by businesses worldwide. ThreatLocker is a full suite of solutions designed to give you total control, stopping unauthorized applications, securing sensitive data, and ensuring your organization runs smoothly and securely. Visit threatlocker.com today to see how a default deny approach can keep your company safe and compliant.
Next up is our monthly afternoon Cyber Tea podcast segment with host Ann Johnson of Microsoft Security. Today, Ann speaks with Igor Tsyganskiy, Microsoft's Global Chief Information Security Officer, about the power of partnership in cyber defense. Ann and Igor discuss the challenges and optimism driving the fight against cyber threats.
Today, we are excited to welcome Igor Tsyganskiy, Microsoft Chief Information Security Officer. With a remarkable career in technology, cybersecurity, and enterprise defense, welcome to Afternoon Cyber Tea, Igor.
Glad to be here.
You know, I talk frequently that cybersecurity is a big data problem. You talk about complex signal processing. I've also heard you say many times that attackers think in graphs and we think in lists. Can you just talk about how all of that comes together to build a better defense for not just Microsoft, but for the community?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it takes a village, right? So at the end of the day, when one attacks, and you have to think about it as an attacker, they don't think about managerial boundaries, organizational boundaries, corporate boundaries. All they want to do is get to target, whatever the target is, to achieve success. And it's very hard when you are on the defense side to think about defense then just as my department or as my company and not some other company. You kind of have to think holistically. To defend, holistic attacks require holistic defense.
But when you're thinking about what we prioritize next, can you talk a little bit about risk? How do you think about it in terms of a risk framework?
The way I think about a risk framework is we want to elevate the cost of an attack for any attackers at Microsoft, right? So at the end of the day, there's a very big difference if the attack costs $1, $10, $1 million, $100 million, or $1 billion. One of the ways to increase the cost is to do joint defense, because then you can defend on behalf of everyone, and therefore you have more opportunities to increase the cost. I work with all the leaders across the company. I would say that for every leader in the company, the notion that their product needs to be trustworthy and secure is the number one priority because it's just common sense. And so basically, from that standpoint of view, I would say it's more of a partnership and collaboration versus I need to check on someone. Not only run securely, but evolve securely. And that's what, there are industries where a product that they sell does not change for decades. A bottle of water, plastic bottle of water that I bought 10 years ago, may be the same plastic bottle of water that I have today. This is not our industry. Our industry is ever evolving. Our industry is rapidly changing. Our industry is constantly growing, both on the good side, meaning the side where we add value to the world, but also on the adversary side. And so nothing is static. So you have to evolve cybersecurity practices as you evolve operational practices.
How do you think about your community and how you tap into CISOs and what's important to you?
Well, first thing is empathy. I have a huge development job, right? Have lots of developers working for me. They just don't do cybersecurity, they do security software, parts to secure Microsoft. We have an R&D arm, we have a research arm. Many of the folks that I work with don't have that benefit. And yet they have to protect their estates. And so having empathy, what their circumstances are, understanding what their circumstances are, and helping them is extremely important. Now, internet itself and adversaries are a great equalizer, right? So they won't care that one company or one division is in, let's say, Europe with one set of regulatory requirements, another one is in the United States, and third one is somewhere in Asia. And that company deals with a bunch of other companies who have a different set of regulatory requirements. What they'll do is they'll just take advantage of that. At the end of the day, everyone is partnering to do one thing, which is protect ourselves from the bad guys. And just understanding that landscape, having empathy for all the players involved, including our attackers, is paramount.
Well, thank you, Igor, and many thanks to our audience for listening. Join us next time on Afternoon Cyber Tea.
You can catch new episodes of Afternoon Cyber Tea every other Tuesday on the N2K CyberWire network and on your favorite podcast app.
And now, a message from Black Cloak. Did you know the easiest way for cyber criminals to bypass your company's defenses is by targeting your executives and their families at home? Black Cloak's award-winning digital executive protection platform secures their personal devices, home networks, and connected lives. Because when executives are compromised at home, your company is at risk. In fact, over 1/3 of new members discover they've already been breached. Protect your executives and their families 24/7, 365 with Black Cloak. Learn more at blackcloak.io.
Oh, that is such a nostalgic sound, isn't it? Last week, Microsoft announced that it's officially pulling the plug on Skype, with the service shutting down on May 5th officially. At this point, Skype has become more of a niche app. Back in 2023, Microsoft said it still had 36 million users, which is a huge drop from its peak of 300 million, including me and our own Dave Bittner, who, by the way, conducted all of his CyberWire interviews for this podcast via Skype back in the day. Fun fact there. Even though Skype is fading out, its impact is still everywhere. The technology behind it helped shape the security and privacy features that protect today's most popular messaging apps. In many ways, the world is just a little bit more safe and more free because Skype's original developers pioneered ideas that set the foundation for modern encrypted communication. Ending call. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. Your feedback ensures we deliver the insights that keep you a step ahead in the rapidly changing world of cybersecurity. If you like the show, please share a rating and review in your podcast app. Please also fill out the survey in the show notes or send an email to cyberwire@n2k.com. We're privileged that N2K CyberWire is part of the daily routine of the most influential leaders and operators in the public and private sector, from the Fortune 500 to many of the world's preeminent intelligence and law enforcement agencies. N2K makes it easy for companies to optimize your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your teams while making your teams smarter. Learn how at n2k.com. N2K's senior producer is Alice Carruth. Our CyberWire producer is Liz Stokes. We're mixed by Trey Hester, with original music and sound design by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producer is Jennifer Ivan. Peter Kilby is our publisher, and I am your host, Maria Varmazes. Thanks for listening. We'll see you tomorrow.
And now, a message from our sponsor, Zscaler, the leader in cloud security. Enterprises have spent billions of dollars on firewalls and VPNs, yet breaches continue to rise by an 18% year-over-year increase in ransomware attacks and a $75 million record payout in 2024. These traditional security tools expand your attack surface with public-facing IPs that are exploited by bad actors more easily than ever with AI tools. It's time to rethink your security. Zscaler Zero Trust plus AI stops attackers by hiding your attack surface, making apps and IPs invisible, eliminating lateral movement, connecting users only to specific apps, not the entire network, continuously verifying every request based on identity and context. simplifying security management with AI-powered automation, and detecting threats using AI to analyze over 500 billion daily transactions. Hackers can't attack what they can't see. Protect your organization with Zscaler Zero Trust and AI. Learn more at zscaler.com/security.